Good day, everyone. I am Neran Sason, one of the reporter of Group 4. I'll be continuing the discussion of Lesson 5.2, Curriculum Evaluation through Learning Assessment.
Levels of assessment for the levels of learning outcomes. Levels of assessment describe levels of the learning outcomes, which are knowledge, process or skills, understanding, and lastly, products or performance. The levels of learning outcomes are also used to describe the levels of assessment through the DepEd Order 73 series of 2012. Levels of learning outcomes are also the levels of assessment. In other words, the levels of assessment follows also the levels of thinking skills from lower level to higher level. The DepEd Order 73 series of 2012 is a guideline issued by DepEd in the Philippines. The order was implemented starting from the school year 2012 to 2013 and aimed to support the progressive rollout of the K-12 curriculum. In this table, we can see in the first column is the different levels of teaching outcomes assessment, and in the second column is the what to test or assess, and in the third column we can see naman ang type of assessment, and in the last column is the percentage value in assessment. In the level 1 is knowledge. It is what to test or assess in our knowledge. It's mostly question who, what, when, how, and why. The best example for the level 1 is multiple choice. In the level 2, process or skill, constructed meaning from knowledge is what being assessed. Pagbibigay kahulugan sa impormasyon o panlalo pang madagdagan ang learning ng mag-aaral sa type ng assessment na ito. So, the type of assessment is similar to the first level 1 and percentage value in assessment is 25%. The best example for this level 2 is R reflection and AC. And lastly is level 3, understanding. Explanation, interpretation, application, empathy, perspective, and self-knowledge, big ideas, generalization, and principle are being assessed. In this level din, di lang nila natatandaan yung mga information, kundi mas lalo pa nila napapalawak yung kaisipan nila tungkol sa topic na yun dahil sa assessment na ito. So, and the type of assessment that can be used are pencil and paper and comprising the highest percentage value of 30%. Nagagamit pa rin ng KPUP or the knowledge, process, understanding, and products sa pagkuha or paraan ng pagbibigay ng mga points sa mga bata, but it's slightly modified by the written works, performance tasks, quarterly exam in the DepEd Order 8 series of 2015. A summative assessment is composed of written work, performance tasks, and quarterly assessment. This will be explained in the table below. In the first column are components, purposes, and when it will be given. In the first row is written work. What are the purposes of this written work? Number 1. Assess learners' understanding of concept and application of skills in written form. Isa sa mga purpose ni written work is natututo yung mga bata in the form of written work. Pwede silang gumawa ng mga reflection kung saan naipapakita doon o nasusulat doon ang mga natutunan nila sa buong klase. And number 2, prepare learners for quarterly assessments. One of the purpose of this written works, it can be advantage to student. It's prepared them to their quarterly exam. Because most of the written works ay nasasali din sa exam. Tulad ng mga quiz ninyo is ina-add din siya sa quarterly exam ninyo. So kahit di nyo napag-aralan is medyo familiar na sa inyo yung mga nilalaman nung exam ninyo. The next component is performance task. Number 1 purposes of performance task, it involves students in the learning process individually or in collaboration with teammates over a period of time. It says that it is opportunity to student to interact more in his or her classmate, or in the same way performance tasks can be done individually. It can help them to be independent and learn in their own perspective at the same time. And the number two, give students opportunities to demonstrate and integrate their knowledge, understanding, and skills about topics or lessons learned in a specific real life situation by performing and producing evidence of their learning. In the scenario, the teacher gave a student a task that can be played in the school or in the classroom, just like a role play. In the play, they will understand more and improve their critical thinking. Or in the scenario in science class, they will given a experimentation task. They will can determine the answer or changes in the experimentation they do if they demonstrate this in real life situation or in a real demonstration. In number three, give students the freedom to express their learning in appropriate and diverse ways. Our students are unique. They have a diverse way to observe and interpret learnings. And in this performance task, students can have a freedom to express their learning on their own preference. And lastly, number four, in purposes of performance tasks, it encourages student inquiry, integration of knowledge, understanding, and skills in various contexts beyond the assessment period. So it says that encouraged the students to integrate their knowledge in the way of giving them a task that to answer some question from the teacher or in a recitation. This performance task can be done by the end of the lesson, focusing on a topic, skill, lesson, and several times during the quarter. And the last components is quarterly assessment. It synthesizes all the learning skills, concepts, and values learned in an entire quarter. It measures student learning at the end of the quarter. So let's move on to the grades at the end of the school year and how these are computed. So in the kindergarten, use of checklists, anecdotal records, and portfolios are used instead of numerical grades, which are based on the kindergarten curriculum guide. So in this kindergarten, teacher used checklists and notes to track each child's progress. And after the checklist for the pupil's grade, it will be present to their parents. In the kindergarten, they use the anecdotal records, means teacher create like a short story. Nilalagay nila yung mga observation at yung mga improvements ng bata. So it should be accurate. To grade 1 to grade 10, junior high, first is the average of the quarter grades produced the end of the year grade. So number 2, to compute their grades, the general average is computed by dividing them the sum of all final grades by the total numbers of learning areas. Each learning areas has equal weight. So this is an example only. The general average of this student is 86. So paano nga ba nakuha ang 86 na grade? So i-add lang lahat ng naging final grades ng student. Ang final grade na ito ay nabibigay lang sa kanila in the end of the unit. So kapag na-add na lahat ng total nito ay 691. So 691, i-divide natin ito sa lahat ng subject na meron sa example natin. So, meron siyang 8 subjects. So, 691 divided by 6 is equal to 86.37. So, the general average of the junior high student is 86. Take a look at this table. So, makikita talaga natin dito na malaki yung factor na nabibigay ng performance task sa mga grade ng mga bata. In the grade 11 and grade 12, the average of the quarterly grade produces the semester grade. And number 2, The general average is computed by dividing the sum of all semestral final grades by the total numbers of learning areas. The senior high school grading components. As you notice, that the performance tasks are comprised the higher percentage value and the highest of them all are works, immersion, and research. Both subject na mahirap sa senior high but it can give a big factor to one student grade. And let's move on to the reporting summative grades by quarterly semester or end of the year. Interpretation of the numerical values for all subject areas is based on the minimum initial grade of 60, transmitted into an equivalent of 75 in the report card. So take a look at this table. So in advanced grading scale based on transmuted values must be 90% above. In order to be proficient, the grade of the student must be 85 to 89%. Approaching proficiency must have grade up to 80 to 84%, and developing is 75 to 79%, and who have grade below up to 74% will be graded as beginning.